Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
I just think you ought to take care of your body, that's all.
My body? What for?
Your body is the temple of the Lord.
You're serious? So you rob a bank, but you keep your body pure. Is that it?
Welcome to a brand new episode of The Pint, a pop culture podcast. My name is John.
My name is Lloyd.
Let's get right into it. This month is June of 2025, and June is Pride Month.
We all know what that is.
That's right. We've been celebrating this is the third year we have done a Pride Month special. So basically, we do an episode, or at least an episode on the main feed and an episode over on our Pint Insider, where we focus on, let's say, either a actor or actress or writer or director that is of the LGBTQ plus community, or the story might tell a story that is related to that. In the past, we've done episodes, Manster, such as Brokeback Mountain.
Brokeback Mountain was last year, right?
That was last year, and then we did
what
Cruising.
was the other one we did?
We did
Cruising, another Al Pacino joint.
Yeah, we're really trying to hammer home the fact that Al Pacino may be gay on this series, because this month, in June of 2025, our Pride special is the 1975 film, which I think, as opposed to those other movies, is an undercover LGBTQ plus film. Dog Day Afternoon. Let's get into it.
I'm ready to go in, Coach. Just give me a chance. I know there's a lot riding on it, but it's all psychological. Just got to stay in a positive frame of mind.
So I had never seen this movie before, Lloyd, and I knew that there was a story beat that was going to reveal itself, that the main character, the Al Pacino character, was bisexual at the very least. But I had not seen this one. This is a classic. Had you seen it before?
So I was curious whether you have seen it. The answer is yes. I have seen Dog Day Afternoon. I don't remember exactly when, but I'm pretty sure I saw it, in the early 80s. And I remembered liking it. It's Al Pacino, and of course I like Al Pacino. And I remember seeing it a long time ago and thinking I was really looking forward to watching it again. So I watched it with Candy, who, as you know, lived in New York for 28 years and never saw Dog Day Afternoon.
Well, this is a Brooklyn movie. It's not Manhattan.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
she held a little bit of,
yeah,
interborough, issues with it.
But the great thing was, I did not say anything. She knew it was a bank, crime movie, but she didn't know anything more than that. So it was good to be with somebody who saw it and didn't see it coming.
Okay, excellent. Well, why don't you tell us all about the production of this film, Manster? Let's get into it. Ooh. A little beer. We got Two Roads?
Yeah, I got some Two Roads today.
Nice.
All right. So we've got Dog Day Afternoon, released on September 21st of 1975, directed by Sidney Lumet. I believe we've done some other stuff by him, or his name has come up.
Well, funnily enough, we're doing another film of his this month. I think, is he the one he directed? I think he directed 12 Angry Men, and we're doing that later this month. So
yes, yeah. that is correct.
Yeah, and that's a coincidence. It isn't Sidney Lumet month here on the Pint, whatever his name is. That was just a coincidence. So,
one of the most prolific and respected filmmakers of his time. You know, he had a career spanning 50 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time. I don't want to be doing what I'm doing for 50 years.
No. And just to add to the 50, this movie turns 50 this year as well.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, he has kind of like not a genre, but it's his identifying things that he does. So he does social realism type stuff, moral dilemmas, really intense, dramatic performances. So you definitely get that with this. He received the Academy Honorary Award in 2005, so he was still alive, so that's a good thing, for his distinguished service to the art of filmmaking.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's good to get stuff like that when you're alive, right? I like it. He did die in 2011, though. Like you said, he did 12 Angry Men. He did Serpico, Network, The Verdict, and The Wiz. He did The Wiz.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. He did I think his last movie was, I believe, Before the Devil Knows You're Dead, it's called.
Yeah.
With Ethan Hawke and Philip Seymour Hoffman. You've seen that?
No, but I knew that was a movie that he did.
He went out on a bang, man. That's a fucked movie. It's good.
Oh,
It's
I got to see
good.
it then.
It's a story about two brothers, and they do a terrible thing, and that's all I'll say.
I'll
you
check it out.
Yeah, you should check it out. We should do it on the show. We'll make it Sidney Lumet September maybe. But yeah, it's a really good movie, and for him, that was his last film. I think it was like 2007 or 8, and yeah, he went out on a bang.
Yeah, good. And by the way, I have seen all of those movies I mentioned that he did. I didn't even put it together like that, but I've seen every one of those. Screenplay by Frank Pearson, who is also, screenwriter and director himself. He did win the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay for Dog Day Afternoon. He was also the president of the Academy from 2001 to 2005. And I'll just give you a couple on his. He directed A Star is Born, the 1976 version of, a dozen or two versions out there.
Chris Christopherson and Barbara Streisand, right?
Yeah. Also was a screenwriter on A Star is Born and Presumed Innocent.
Okay.
Another pretty good movie. Yep. So this movie itself is based on true events, and you get that right off first thing in the movie. And basically, it's a desperate bank robbery in Brooklyn. The movie, I guess the script maybe, was based on a Life magazine article called The Boys in the Bank. That was
the original title of the film too, but they changed it because they thought Sidney Lumet thought that sounded too much like a comedy.
That does, I guess.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. And that came out on September 22nd, 1972. If you Google that, you'll come up with links, and you can, I got like a link to a Google Books page or something where there's a whole article, the whole issue of Life magazine, and you can go to those pages and actually see them, exactly how they looked in the magazine. I started reading it, but I had too much other things to do. But I wouldn't mind going back and checking it out.
Yeah, well,
so if you're interested in this movie, go check it out, because there's a lot of good stuff.
A Life magazine article is not going to be like 3 pages long. It's going to be like fucking 13 pages with lots of small writing. I get it. I feel you.
A lot of other small things, and of course, you see all the little ads from back in that time, 1972. So it's pretty fun and nostalgic. Filming locations. It filmed from September to November of 1974, mostly just in Brooklyn, in Queens, and at JFK airport. The opening montage goes through New York traffics and bridges and beaches and Coney Island and different neighborhoods. And what it actually is, I guess, is the getaway car itself driving through the neighborhoods with Elton John's Amarina playing on the radio.
And that was only supposed to be used as a hold track, and then they ended up liking it so much he bought the rights to the song, or however you do that. Yeah,
however you do it, and it totally fits. I mean, it's a great song. First of all.
It is, and
it totally just gives you the vibe of, hey, this is like a day in the life of Brooklyn, in '72. Dog Day Afternoon, hot, boring day. And this is what's going on.
Yep.
So the bake scenes themselves were shot on Prospect Park West between 17th and 18th Streets. So there was a building there with a warehouse that was on the lower floor, and they created a whole bank set with movable walls and everything just on in that warehouse, which was fortunate because they did all the shooting outside and inside the same location.
Yeah.
So, you're not walking through a door, 5 miles away and then, peering somewhere else. It's all right there. You can see the outside of the street from the inside of the bank. It allowed him to put cameras wherever he wanted because it was all set. So that was pretty cool. And then the second story of that building was where all the production offices and catering was.
Oh, that's cool. So it's all very compact.
Yep. And a cool little thing I read was Lumet, he really wanted sort of a TV look to it. He wanted it to look like it was being shot by TV cameras and stuff. So he had a lot of the cameramen on like wheelchairs and roller skates, and they would pull them along while panning around, and it just gave a really sort of TV camera look to it.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And another cool thing is the actual day of the heist was in August of 1972, where the temperature was around 87. But when they filmed it, it was in the fall, and they were reaching lows as far as 40 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So they had to do the whole, make them all look like they were sweaty, and they did all kinds of sprays. And in order to not have their breath be visible, they would fill their mouths with ice and then speak their lines. So it'd be like even you wouldn't see their breath.
We definitely talked about another movie where they did that trick. There was, I don't know if it was no, I don't remember what it was.
You remember which one?
No, it was something where it was a hot weather thing, but they filmed it during cold weather and they did the same trick. We talked about that once before. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do vaguely remember that now. Pacino had grown a mustache.
I read that
to film the role, and then he watched the dailies, after, I don't know, first day or two of shooting, and he's like, nope, that mustache doesn't work. So he shaved it off, and I guess they redid it.
Redid a whole day. So he grew the mustache because he felt like, and I guess this is very much 70s thinking, which is fine because it was probably more of a truism back then, but he grew the mustache because he said that he wanted to look more like a homosexual man. Yeah. Right. And, like that was kind of the effect people thought of when they, Freddie Mercury, that kind of look. Yep. Freddie Mercury famously, when he went from the long hair, no mustache look to the short hair mustache look, his fans were so devastated that they used to throw razors on the stage. Like saying, like, shave it off. Like, you're not gay. You can't be gay, Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, stop that.
He's the gayest guy on earth, but
it's just a phase.
It's just a phase that's lasted about 35 years. And yeah, but Pacino, they filmed the whole day and they had to refilm the whole day after he shaved it. Yeah.
Crazy. He also allowed the cast to ad-lib lines, as long as they stayed close to the script, because he wanted it to have a more natural feel. So you don't want to be like digging for a line that just doesn't feel legit. So they were encouraged to do that and to wear their own clothes and not use makeup.
Yeah, he didn't wear makeup at all. And I read the telephone conversation between him and Chris Sarandon was almost entirely ad-libbed. They made him do it twice so they could take different pieces of what they would say and put it together.
And then another couple little things here. Before the Attica scene, there's a scene in the movie where, it's pretty well known where he starts screaming Attica. The assistant director, Burt Harris, I guess like whispered in his ear and said, hey, why don't you just mention Attica or something like that? So that was all part of like an improvised dialogue, the whole Attica thing.
Yeah.
Which was cool. And speaking of the crowd, there's a crowd to like 300 to 400 extras, but as the filming progressed, that crowd grew by, people in their windows and pedestrians and people coming, just hanging out. And they were saying that the crowd itself was even improvising, and like Lumet fucking just went with it and trusted the crowd. And it all totally worked.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
And then one cool thing, which maybe you didn't notice watching this, but there is no film. There's no sound score to the movie.
I
Not at
didn't
all.
notice it, but now that you say it,
Yeah.
it's
Because he basically felt like it wouldn't be believable if it had a score. Like you wouldn't feel like this actually truly happened.
yeah.
So other than the Amarina, that's it for music.
I love music in movies, but I think I always tend to almost forget about it a lot of times.
Yeah.
I'm concentrating more on the dialogue or the emoting or the acting. So yeah, but yeah, you're right. That's it. That Amarina, and then it's done.
So that's it for production. Who is in this behemoth?
I was just wondering, who are some of these motherfuckers at this party?
All right. Well, Al Pacino makes another appearance here on Pride Month over on the Pint. Sonny Wartzik, who was based on real life John Wojciech, a Vietnam vet that decided one day that he was going to rob a bank. They talk in this movie a lot about him, and he seems like he's not a great guy, but they don't show you that. He seems so bumbling in his attempt to rob this bank and harmless. But then there's parts where they talk about he puts a gun to his wife's head and he drives his male lover, who is also his wife, we'll get into that, to near suicide because he's such a shit to him. So it's a pretty good performance, because here's a guy that we only see one side of through most of this movie. You know him from, as we said, Cruising, Scarface, The Godfather 1 through 3. As a matter of fact, The Godfather 2 had just finished filming, and he did not want to do this movie because he does method acting a lot, and he figured that this was going to be a strain on him. He was tired from Godfather 2, and the way they got him to accept it was they offered it to Dustin Hoffman, who he considered his biggest rival.
Yeah.
And they gave Dustin Hoffman the script, and then he said, I'll do it. His only concession was the character that I'm going to talk about next, Sal, was in real life an 18-year-old kid. They wanted it to be a young kid, but Pacino wanted John Cazale to be Sal Naturel in this film.
Right.
John Cazale, in a very strange piece of life imitating art in this movie, talks about not wanting to die of cancer. And in real life, 3 years after this movie came out in 1978, he died of cancer. He was apparently a chain smoker in real life, and he had lung cancer.
He was the only character that the character had the same name, or did I steal your thunder?
Oh no, no, you're right. Yeah, Sal. Yeah, and it's almost right to the belt, right?
Yeah,
it was like Naturelli and Naturale, I think, like very close last names.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Sonny Wojciech is close to Wojciech, but it's different. John Cazale, in terms of actors, he's got a perfect record, right? Like, he starred in 5 movies only, and all 5 movies he starred in were nominated at the least if they didn't win Best Picture at the Oscars. So John Cazale obviously had a very short career. He died very young, 42 years old. He was in The Conversation, Godfather 1 and 2, this movie, and The Deer Hunter. All 5 movies nominated or won Best Picture. So this dude can't be beat. He literally can't be beat. But yeah, sad story. And he was romantically involved with Meryl Streep, who was with him right through the end. Here's the guy who I think is the MVP of this movie, Charles Durning, as Sergeant Moretti.
It's my favorite thing he's ever done.
He's great. And an unfortunate part of this movie is there comes a point where he just disappears.
Yeah.
The FBI takes over and he disappears. He's an NYPD detective who's kind of in charge of this whole bank robbery. You might know him from Solar Babies, a real shitty 80s movie. Dick Tracy, again with Al Pacino. And I always remember him as Doc Hopper from the Muppet movie. We mentioned him before. Chris Sarandon plays Leon Shermer. Not Manster Shermer, but Leon Shermer. Who is this is where all the LGBTQ stuff comes in.
Yeah. His first role. Chris Sarandon's first role.
And this is the whole plot. Like, Sonny is robbing the bank. We find out later in the movie, and we'll get to it, but he's robbing the bank to kind of fund his lover / wife / husband sex change operation. Chris Sarandon, you probably know best as Jerry Dandridge from Fright Night.
Yeah.
He's also probably best known as the Princess Bride. He's Humperdinck. And then the one I think people forget all the time that it's him because they don't realize it's him maybe, is he is the voice of Jack Skellington in The Nightmare Before Christmas. He's the speaking voice. He is not the singing voice. The singing voice is Danny Elfman. But he's really great in this, and he's young. He's
so good.
He's married to Susan Sarandon at this point. They got divorced in 1979. So this is very young Chris Sarandon. All right, a couple more here. Penelope Allen plays Sylvia. They call her Mouth. She is one of the bank tellers. She's kind of the brassy blonde one that ends up she's almost like the lead teller, I guess you could say.
Yeah, she's the lead.
Yeah. She was in Bad Lieutenant, Doc, and The Bedroom Window. And apparently, I read this today, her and her husband, when Al Pacino first came to New York to be an actor, her and her husband, took him in. So they knew him. They said it was almost like a foster relationship where he lived with them for a couple years. And yeah, so they knew each other.
Well, yeah, and so it's just sort of a fitting role for this movie as well.
Yeah, she's kind of motherly almost to him.
Yeah.
I got to admit, I got to sound weird saying this, but as the bank tellers got sweatier, I got hornier. Did you? Everybody gets so sweaty in this movie, and at one point she's in a slip and she's all sweaty, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm horny tonight.
It's funny though because you're watching this is a '70s movie, and everybody looks like, bank tellers and banks don't look like that nowadays.
No,
this is a whole different look. People have a whole different look now.
But I'll tell you that FDIC logo thing is the same.
Yeah. That's right.
It's fucking same. All right, a couple more here. James Broderick plays the FBI Special Agent Sheldon. The Taking of Pelham 123 and Alice's Restaurant.
Carol Matthew's daddy.
Is that Matthew's dad?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not even see that. I didn't know he was an actor.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I didn't know that. Carol Kane plays Jenny the Squirrel, another bank teller who, while she's being held hostage, her husband calls her to ask her what time dinner's going to be. It's insane, but it tracks, I'm sure.
Yeah, it tracks.
Carol Kane was in Taxi. She was in The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt on Netflix and License to Drive. And then finally, you got to mention him. He doesn't talk through most of the movie. He gets lines towards the end, and then he kills the only person who gets killed in this whole movie. It's a favorite of ours here. As FBI Special Agent Murphy, it's young Lance Henriksen. Yep. And here's some films that we did here that he was in. We did Mom and Dad, we did The Terminator, and we did Aliens. So, yeah, young Lance Henriksen in kind of a pinkish suit.
He's been in everything. Did we ever do Near Dark?
No, not yet.
We didn't do it. Oh, okay.
We
just talked about it on our vampire show.
We did. All right, Manster, set up the initial setup for this bank robbery here.
Well, like I said, the car's driving through the city, and then they get to the front of the bank, and the dude's inside. Is it Stevie that gets out first?
Stevie, who, by the way, I've never seen this actor in anything other than Jaws 2. And as soon as he comes out, I went, oh, fuck, it's that kid from Jaws 2.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And so they come out. It's later in the afternoon, right? Isn't it
closing time?
1 o'clock or something? Things already happened that they didn't expect. And they get out of the bank, and I think so. Stevie goes in, and Sal goes in, and then Sonny. And Sal goes right to the bank manager's desks and sits down. And, this stuff happens so quickly. There's no beating around the bush. He takes a gun out and points at him. He's like, just calm down, relax. And Al Pacino comes in with a 5-foot long box.
Flower box.
Like a long, skinny flower box. Now, anybody at all that walks into a bank with a box that shape, you know what's going down.
And 50 years ago, right? But I thought to myself, there's no way you could walk into a bank with a box like that today.
No.
You couldn't do it 20 years ago either.
Yeah, I'm not even sure you can do it in the 70s, but maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
So Stevie, they get inside. And Sal immediately puts the manager under, he has a machine gun. And then Sonny starts to fumble with this box. And we immediately can see from this moment.
No, let's not skip over that too fast. Because when he's pacing back and forth, and he's just itching to start. And he does a fucking Chevy Chase, kind of almost pratfall, trying to get that gun out of the box. It's hilarious. And I laugh at it every single time I see it.
it sets up immediately what situation this is going to be.
Yeah.
He's inept, right? He's inept no matter what they say about him, how mean he might be, or all these things. He's inept. So he pulls his rifle out and he tells Stevie, the young guy, to put a gun on the guard. And, this is going to be really quick, guys. 10 minutes and we're out. And then immediately Stevie is like, can't do this.
Yeah.
I can't do this. And it's comical because, well, what do you mean? And he's like, I can't do this. I have to go.
Yeah, I physically can't do it.
Physically can't do it. So he immediately is like, okay, no problem. Give me your gun. And you can't take the car though, right? You can't take the car. Well, how do I get home?
He was going to take the car.
How do I get home?
Arguing about that.
Tells him, he's like, take a fucking train. Do whatever you got to do. Give me the keys.
Right.
So in the first 5 minutes, everything is kind of going wrong.
Yeah, they're all bumbling. Did it strike you that they were all using each other's names in the bank?
100%.
Immediately?
100%. These guys are not wearing any form of mask, and they're calling each other by their Christian names. But I think it's on purpose. I don't know if this happened in the real life version, but I think this is just going to show like how ill planned all of this is. Like at any point in this movie, let me ask you a question because I either missed a line of dialogue or why was Sal even involved in this?
Just Sal and Stevie, I think, were all just moral support. They're all just there for Sonny. But I don't know how you get your buddies to agree to do something like that.
Yeah, I love you, man. But like, if you said to me tomorrow, like we're gonna hit TD Bank in Bristol, I'd be like, I won't tell on you, but I'm not going.
Yeah.
I'm not going. I can't do it.
That's crazy, man. I don't know.
Yeah. So things just not going right off the bat. But then things get worse, Manster, when they get into the vault. What's going on in the vault?
Yeah. So this is still pretty early, right? Right. First 10 minutes of the movie. They go into the vault and, Sonny's worked at a bank before. It's obvious he's worked in a bank. He knows how things go down.
He knows there's a special key that if the manager uses it, apparently it either will lock the vault or contact the authorities. Because he says to him, don't use that. He calls it something. Don't use that key. I know what that does. So yeah, he doesn't know enough. Yeah.
They go in there with the manager and then at least one of the tellers. And I think the teller starts, she's like, all right, unlock that. I want to get all the money out of here. And the teller starts crying. There's nothing here. They already came. They already made their pickup with the Brinks truck and they're gone. Like there's $1,100 here. So he's like, all right, give me the $1,100. He gets that. And then they go to the cash registers and, they're getting $500 here. They didn't get very much money. And then they get the traveler's checks too.
Yeah, he gets the traveler's checks.
And then the stupid ass thing happens.
Yeah. So Sonny decides for some reason to burn the ledgers that like just these like binders that have, I guess, the traveler's checks info in them or something. He decides to burn it. And even Sal's like, what are you doing? And at this point, a guy across the street, who is an insurance agent, is watching because he sees smoke coming out.
Right.
Because
he drops the ledgers, he burns them in a little trash can. But, smoke is billowing up and going through the vents and going outside.
Yeah. So the smoke's going outside. This guy comes over. Sonny tells him, go to the window, tell him nothing's wrong. He tells him nothing's wrong. Guy doesn't even give him a signal or anything. He literally does just say everything's okay. At this point now, like the robbery aspect of this movie is over now because they haven't gotten enough money and they're going to try to make their way out of here, any way possible. But they have to start deciding what they're going to do. And I noticed this myself before anything happened, but did you notice like the bank guard seemed to be having something happening to him before it even happens?
Yeah.
He seems like he's stuck frozen in like a silence of panic. And eventually we were going to find out he's an asthmatic. So he has like an asthma attack as everything's going on. Sonny is taking the bank manager and having him, like, they're starting to block off exits and, entrances because the cops show up.
They're putting desks in front of doors.
Yeah. The cops show up with Charles Durning, and Durning is kind of starting to have like a back and forth. They start to call inside.
Right. They're calling inside. That's right.
These
guys are over their heads. within like the first 5 minutes of being there.
Totally.
Yeah.
At one point, now they have all these people they call hostages. Are they hostages? Are they not? These bank tellers, and I found it one of the weirdest things about these is it eventually becomes like they're all on the same team to some extent.
Yes.
Particularly, there's that one bank teller that's like really into all of this. Like she's laughing and like seems like she's on a high from this whole experience.
They're all loving it, and because like you said, well, they're having the phone calls back and forth, and Moretti's on the phone with Sonny, and they're talking. They have a pretty good rapport, like right away. And then I think it was after he goes out because he convinces them to come out and take a look. He's like, "You're surrounded. We know who you are. Blah blah blah. Come on outside and look." And Sonny doesn't want to go out, and he's like, "Just come on. Nobody's gonna shoot you. You got my word." Yeah, they come. He comes out and he looks around. He sees all the crowd, and he sees the snipers on the roof, and he sees all the fanfare, and he starts kind of getting a big head about it.
Oh, 100%.
Right? It starts pumping him up, and then it pumps up. Of course, he brings Sylvia out with him as like a shield, like a human shield. Like, I'm not going out there alone. You're going to go out first.
He brings her out, but then she willingly
and she gets caught up in it. Yeah, she gets caught up with it too. And they're like, "Oh, I talked to this guy and I talked to that." It's all like a huge thing. The television cameras are there. Everybody's loving it.
And that's the point where Sonny, starts making like his little demands of different things. Like, well, we'll let a hostage out. We're going to let out the guard because he's an asthmatic. Can we get him out? And as a sign of good faith, they let him out. And then, 1975, obviously a piece of social commentary, but it's true. They let him out and the cops like almost start to beat the hell out of him because he's a black
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
That's actually a really powerful scene because Durning is freaking out on the cops. Like, Put your guns away. Like, he is not a threat.
Like when you're watching it, you almost feel like Durning is on Sonny's side. He's doing everything he can to do what Sonny wants.
He doesn't want to see anything bad happen. And we do at one point, Sonny, because he feels like he has to make, these claims as a hostage taker, he's like, "I'm going to start throwing bodies out the front if you don't do what I want to do."
Right.
You could tell that Sonny doesn't really mean that, but he's got to use the hostages as leverage. But then Sal's like a real weird character.
Oh, so fucking weird, that scene.
First of all, let's just be honest. Like, John Cazale, he's a creepy looking guy, right?
He's got a forehead for miles.
He has a forehead for miles. He's got the kind of long hair. He reminds me very much of, or I should say this actor reminds me very much of John Cazale, David Dashmalkian, the guy from like Late Night with the Devil. And he's been in a lot of things lately, but there's something about him. He's just this gaunt, kind of creepy looking guy. And Sal barely talks in this movie, but at one point he says to him, "Did you mean what you said about throwing out the bodies out there?" And in my head, I'm like, oh, he's going to say, "I don't want to kill anybody." And instead he says to him, he goes, "'Cause I'm okay with that.
I'm ready to go."
Yeah. Ready to go. And it's funny too, because we never, ever throughout the course of the movie, ever really focus on Sal other than just going back to him once in a while. Like there's the joke where and this was an improvised line, and Pacino's reaction is real when they're talking about getting a jet and take them anywhere they want to go. And Sonny says Algeria. Why? Who knows? He just says Algeria.
Right.
And then he says to Cazale's character, he says, "Look, if this goes down, we have to leave America. We're never coming back.
Right.
What country would you want to go to?" And he says, "Wyoming." And that was a line that John Cazale made up on the spot.
Yeah.
And it shocks fucking Sonny, and it shocked Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Because then he has to, he explains to somebody afterwards, he's like, he wants to go to Wyoming. He doesn't even know it's not a country. So this really is like the whole breadth of this story now is going to be the interactions between the cops and Sonny, bank tellers, and, how they're kind of just falling into it. But then I think it's important that we get into like Sonny's personal relationships and what's driving this. Because we see at one point, Sonny has a wife and 2 kids. And to be nice, she seems like a real kind of New York ball buster. Like, she seems like a harsh woman. But she also tells the cops that, he's just acting crazy lately. He put a gun to my head. He doesn't pay for the kids' welfare. He doesn't do anything for the kids.
Yep.
So I got to ask you, Master, because I don't know if I missed lines or what, but I was super confused once we got into the reality of this movie being about him trying to fund the sex change operation. So we find out that Sonny, who's already married, somehow is also married to a transsexual man. And I say transsexual meaning in this movie, as in, I guess, the nomenclature of past, he was a man who dressed as a woman, but who wanted to fully become a woman.
Right. Because his psychiatrist told him that you're a woman trapped in a man's body.
Yes.
Right.
So,
and I believe they call it sex reassignment surgery. Whereas when you and I grew up, it was indeed called a sex change operation.
Sex change operation, yeah. So what I was confused about was they show a picture of the Leon character on the wedding day that he married Sonny, and he's dressed like a woman in a gown.
Yep.
And then they say that the priest who married them, because they got married in a Catholic church, ended up getting, they use the word defrocked, which I guess means kicked, like disbarred or whatever. But my question was, so does that mean, did they fool the priest into making the priest think that he was a woman, or did the priest knowingly marry them as a man? Because every time they mentioned they got married in a church as a man and a woman, I'm like, how in 1975?
Right.
How did that? Maybe I'm being very ignorant, but how did that happen?
So that's a good question. I didn't think that deeply into it, but I mean, maybe they fooled him.
And how did it happen with Sonny being married already?
Another thing, I don't know.
They don't ever really get into it, but this is where we start.
Sonny is a very complicated person.
He is. He leans on him being a Vietnam vet a little bit, you know, for kind of saying like this is maybe one of the reasons why he's doing the stuff he does, because he can never really come up with a really good answer as to why he's truly doing this. At one point, he's like, well, you know, it's just all the pressures in my life. Like my wife wants money. Leon wants money for this sex reassessment. His mother, that's a weird relationship as well. So I don't know. I was just kind of confused, but Pacino plays it really well. Cause he's just like a guy who's kind of like, seems like he's at the end of his rope. You know what I mean? And just doing this thing.
Because there's so many scenes. I mean, there's so much that happens in this movie. There's so many little things. But you know, at one point, and you know, we'll talk about them, I guess. But there's one point where he's like just holding his head in his hands because there's so much pressures coming from different sides, and there's so many things going on in his head.
He starts crying.
People he wants to please, and you know, things like that. Yeah, he starts crying. It's like this guy is just totally losing it.
So then at one point he's like, "Well, you know, I can't get a union job," and the bank manager or the cop is like, "Well, why don't
somebody's on the phone saying, just get a job,
just get non-union job," and he makes an excuse. You know, like yes, he could go become a whatever, but he doesn't want that. He wants to be something better. Yeah. It just seems like in the end, it's a movie about a guy who's gotten to a certain age in his life. And like many people, and not unlike myself at times, it's just like, what the fuck have I done?
What do I do with the rest of my life now?
Right. And he has made a clear mess of things. He's got a wife who he obviously seems to be at odds with. But then there's, I thought, a great scene when they're talking to each other on the phone. You know, obviously he's kind of left her for this man, and that's got to be confusing to her. But as he's talking to her, she apologizes to him. She's like, "I'm sorry that I gained so much weight." And he's like, "Do not apologize about that. You're beautiful." Yeah. And I was like, I felt something there for their relationship. Like, I felt like, oh man, he does love her, but he's just like such a fuck up that he loves Leon. Right. But like,
yeah, absolutely.
But when Leon and him have the phone call, you know, they bring Leon down from the sanitarium or whatever they call it. And they have this conversation on the phone. And even though Leon loves him, at one point, Sonny is like, well, you know, you can come with me to whatever country. We're going to Algeria or Wyoming, whatever Sal thinks Wyoming is. You can come. And Leon's like, I've been trying to get away from you.
Yeah, he's like, you put a gun to my head.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's been trying to get away from it. And, you know, we learned that, so now there's two people that said that Sonny has put guns to their head.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's something wrong there.
There is. And I think it's a strength of the movie and maybe a weakness of the movie that we never got to see that side of him, because I think part of it is it's trying to set us up in the beginning with his ineptness at being a bank robber to feel bad for him. But we do feel bad for him at the beginning, but then you learn about this character and you're like,
Right.
oh, he's not great. Like he's kind of an abuser.
You know, he's not so, he is inept because it's sort of a comedy of errors,
Oh yeah.
but it's not, he fucking gets a lot. Like where I think a lot of times, you know, people would have just been shot pretty quickly. You know, he gets so far with the police and with Moretti sympathizing with him, and he even gets kind of far with the FBI agent later. And he demands, you know, food and medicine for, you know, the people in the bank. I don't think he ever really calls them hostages, right? But the police do.
Yeah. Yeah. Police definitely use that word more than once, but he's playing everybody.
Right.
And Moretti is more sympathetic, even though he's still a cop. He's trying to be more understanding of the situation. The feds are just like, this has got to end. And at one point, like the main fed, Matthew Broderick's father, like says, like, no more demands. You're done. You know, like we're done bending to our knee for what you want in this situation. We're going to start telling you the next time we send you food, hostage comes out. You want a stretch limo to go to the airport? We need a hostage. By the way, when they said stretch limo and that thing showed up, I'm like, what the fuck was
what
that?
was it? Like, is a station wagon?
It looked like something the Muppets travel in. It was crazy.
Focus on the pleasure, something like a treasure. Can you picture that? Can you picture that? Can you picture? You gotta see it in your mind.
Almost looked
crazy.
like the Ghostbuster.
It was
thing, I don't know.
Ecto. It was Ecto 1 if it fucked Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem's bus. It was something that like should have been filled with chickens and Muppets and Ghostbusters.
Right.
And I'm like, this is a stretch limousine. We've kind of, Master, is there anything I'm missing that you want to talk about?
I don't know if you want to talk about Attica, you know, the whole scene where he comes out and stirs up the crowd, because that's a big part of the movie, the way he stirs up the crowd and gets the crowd, you know, he becomes a sympathetic character. I think once they learn, I mean, he was kind of already the crowd. He had the crowd when he went out the first time.
Yes.
Right. And
he ends up getting tackled by one of the
another
boyfriends.
time someone tried to tackle him and the crowd was like totally, you know, booing, hissing that guy. And at one point, he's going back and forth with Moretti, and then they start yelling at each other, but it's in a taunting and playful manner. Right. And then he's like, all right. And I guess recently, you know, at that time, like there had been a prison riot in Attica. And so he starts saying, you know, what's this going to be like, Attica? He's like, Attica. And like he had the whole crowd, you know, in his fingers.
I mean, you mentioned it earlier, but like, if you've never seen this movie, that is certainly the bit that everybody knows about this movie is Attica. Like I knew Attica, you know, I mean, I knew what the premises was, bank robbery, sex change operation, but Attica is like the scene that I think people go to, when they think about this for sure. So he's becoming like a man of the people. He's being interviewed by the news on the phone, and it's pumping him up. He's definitely getting a bigger head.
And it was funny because they were seeing, you know, they're watching a tiny little television right in the bank, and then they're watching a news broadcast about what's happening at the bank, and they're confirming, we confirm that, you know, Sonny Wojciech or whatever, you know, married a man, and there's homosexuals at the wedding, and they said right now there's 2 homosexuals in the bank.
Oh, Sal didn't like that.
Yeah, Sal didn't like that one bit.
Hey, Sonny, come here. Yeah. They just said 2 homosexuals. Yeah.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm not homosexual. And then he's like obsessed with
Can't help what they say.
Can you let them know?
Let them know.
Them know.
And then also, all right. So here's another thing to mention. When the FBI comes, so Moretti is no longer in charge. Like there is a turning point in the movie. All right. And it happens like 1 hour and 5 minutes in. And that's when they bring Leon, Chris Sarandon there.
Yes.
You don't find that out until halfway through the movie. This is a 2-hour movie, a little more. And you don't find out about the motivation for this until more than 1 hour in.
Yeah.
So they're stringing you along, and they're doing a great job of it because you're still interested. And then once you hit that twist, you're like, oh shit, now this becomes a whole nother thing. But that's also around the same time after that happened, night falls, and that's when Agent Sheldon from the FBI comes in, and he's trying to get a rapport, with Sonny too, and he's trying to be trustworthy, and he goes inside, right, and he sees Sal, and he knows something's wrong with this guy.
Yeah.
Right? Or he picks up something from Sal, because I know when he leaves and he talks to Sonny, he goes, "Don't worry, we'll take care of Sal."
Yeah.
And you're like, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Right. All right. Don't you worry about Sal. We're going to take care of that.
Yeah.
Because he sees what Sonny isn't seeing, even though Sal made that comment, is that Sal is like a pin drop away. I honestly, because I had never seen this movie before, expected through the whole movie that Sal was going to like shoot one of the hostages.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be a big point where like, enough of this shit, Sonny, like pop, let's make this happen. And they don't do that. But what they do is when we get towards the end, and it's okay, it's the time where the hostages and Sal and Sonny are going to go into this Muppet van, and it's going to bring them to LaGuardia or JFK, and it's going to fly them off to Algeria. So initially, the limo driver shows up. It's this African-American gentleman, and him and Sonny go through the whole thing. They're looking for booby traps or hidden weapons, and they find nothing. And then the guy is just trying to pretend to be a man of the people and say, like, me and my girlfriend were watching this, and it's interesting. Sonny says, I want him to be because they say originally it's going to be Henriksen, who is
Lance
Murphy.
Henriksen's. Yep.
Right. And then he says, no, I want this guy. And the guy is like, no, I'm not paid for that, man. I just brought the limo here. They're driving it. And then he keeps saying it. And then what is it that tips him off?
He makes so when the black guy, forget his name, I'm sorry, when he gets in the car, Sonny says something like, "Don't worry, they're not going to shoot you. Like it's me they're after." He goes, "Okay." They look for white meat. Shoot the white meat. And as soon as he says shoot the white meat, Sonny's like, "Get out."
Yeah. You're not my guy. He points to Murphy, Henriksen. You're going to drive us. So Henriksen gets in. They do this whole maneuver where they surround Sonny and they all get into the different sides of this Muppet van.
Yeah, right.
They're trying, and
it's a very Muppety move.
It is. And everybody, once they're inside this, the rule is, okay, the cop cars are going to take off first. You're going to follow, and we're going to go from there. And Sal... Everybody's panicked because this is like heavy duty.
Sal's holding his gun Pulp Fiction style.
Sal is Pulp Fiction Marvining his gun, and it's pointed towards the front. And Henriksen says, "Hey Sal, you got to do me a favor, point your gun up, because if we hit a bump, I'm done." And Sal puts it up, but they start taking off, and then you're just wondering where something's going to go wrong. And we get a bunch
people
of
rioting, right?
Right.
They're throwing rocks at
throwing
the car.
Rocks, honking the horns, calling them motherfuckers and stuff. And you're like, okay, this is where it's going to happen. And you keep seeing Sal drop the gun.
Right.
Like, not even on purpose. He just is doing it, like, not thinking. So it's, the ride is pretty heavy. We get to the airport. We're on the tarmac. They're like little kids because Sonny is like, Sal, look, it's a plane. The plane's coming. And he's very excited about it. And Murphy is in the driver's seat, and then the other agent, Matthew Broderick's dad, comes to the passenger side.
And they let someone out, right? They let one of the
tellers
out.
One of the tellers gets out,
right.
And Sonny's like, I just realized I haven't eaten all day, and is there going to be food on the plane? And Broderick's dad is like, yeah, there's going to be Sheldon. There's going to be hamburgers on the plane. Don't you worry about it.
We got 5 guys.
We got you we got one of those nice split hot dogs.
Yeah. And the lady, remember, she gives Sal the rosary because she's concerned, like, oh, Sal's never been on a plane before. Here's a rosary beads, so you can have some comfort.
Yeah. She was the hot one, too, by the way. She was the one that they found in the bathroom. Yeah. She's like, here, Sal, I feel bad for you. Your first flight, take these rosaries. And Sal takes them and, like, wraps them around his hand like a good Italian.
Lowers his weapon again.
And at this point, Manster, like, how does everything go down? So
at this point, the lady is out in, again... Murphy, Lance Henriksen, he gives Broderick or Sheldon a glance, like something's going down between those two guys. As soon as he does that, he says, "Sal, I'm gonna have to have you raise your weapon again. I don't want to get shot here." And as he does that, Broderick reaches in and grabs Sonny's weapon, because Sonny is holding his straight up because he's holding a rifle.
Right.
So he grabs Sonny's weapon, and right at that point, he's got a little hidden compartment in his door, which Sonny did not find. So he pulls a pistol out of that little compartment and just in one swift move, turns around and shoots Sal right between the eyes.
Right between the eyes. Blood hits everybody. They're all shocked. It is a Marvin moment from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
And
it goes right to Sonny, and you see his face, and he's like, "Oh, fuck."
He literally, the whole scene at the end where they pull Sonny out of the car and put him up against the hood of the car and are reading him his rights, he looks so dejected. We didn't talk about it, but there's a whole bit at the end where he talks to his mother and he leaves everybody in his life.
He does his will in the bank. But you have a feeling that he's not worried about any of that because he feels like he's going to get away with this. He seems very confident. He always feels in charge.
Yeah, but he's never really in charge. He's kind of like pushed in certain directions. And he's just dejected. And then we find out on the screen that, he spent 20 years in jail. In real life, he spent 20 years in jail. He died in 2006 of cancer. Sal obviously died right there. He was only 18 in real life. They never mentioned what happened to Stevie.
That's right, because he was much older in the movie than the true life.
Right. Well, yeah, because Ali was, in his early 40s. And they never mentioned what happens to Stevie. Maybe Stevie got away with it. Maybe, nobody recognized him. That's essentially the end.
And then Leon underwent the surgery.
Yes, Leon underwent the surgery, paid for it himself, I guess. Yeah. And was in real life was living in New York as a woman for, I think he died or she died too, but for the rest of her life. So
Sonny actually left some money in his will. He left some money for Leon's surgery.
In real life, Sonny didn't pay for it.
Oh, I see. Okay, right. Right. I guess.
And also Sonny didn't die, so there was no will to be had.
Right.
He left it for him, but nothing ever happened to him.
Yep.
I did want to mention too, just to go back to an earlier scene, because you were talking about like Sal with the gun pointing down and how Sheldon was able to just grab the barrel of Sonny's gun. The scene earlier in the movie, this movie could have ended in 10 minutes time.
Right.
Is when Sonny and the bank manager are moving that, bookshelf or whatever across the room. And Sonny puts the rifle on top of it, where the other guy could just have grabbed it and pointed it at him, and then only had to worry about Sal. You know what I mean? I thought, man, this guy. I'm not a gun person, but I would think if you have a gun, you've got to secure it, especially in a situation where you're holding hostages, and that's just another piece of his ineptness. That's just insane. All right, so that is 1975's Dog Day Afternoon. It is celebrating its 50th anniversary. So, if you have not checked it out, check it out. Before we do the cast, since this is a Pride episode, I do want to read off a couple websites for people. Look, we know it's not easy, especially now more than ever, being a trans person, any member of the LGBTQ community right now, I think is probably a little nervous because things have changed so much in our country. So, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, you can go to the trevorproject.org. There's the Trevor Lifeline if you need to talk to somebody, even to get help or just talk stuff out. It's 1-866-488-7386. There is a specialized lifeline for trans people. It's open 24/7 and it's staffed by transgender folks so that you could talk to somebody that has lived your situation or an approximation of it. That is 1-877-565-8860. And if you're in Canada, 1-877-330-6366. And then the humanrightscampaign.org is another website, hrc.org, where you can get tons of information. Check that out. Pretty Please with Sugar on Top. Let's talk about the money.
So I'm talking about fractions of a penny here, and over time, they add up to a lot.
All right, so more than $1,100 at the very least. This is 1975, so of course, Box Office Mojo does not go back that far. So I just got stuff for the year. Here are the top 5 films from 1975. Number 5, Dog Day Afternoon. Best Original Screenplay Oscar. Won it, as Manster said earlier. So it's number 5. It made $22.5 million that year. Number 4, I think this is Warren Beatty banging a bunch of chicks. Shampoo. $23.8 million. Number 3, $50.4 million. The Rocky Horror Picture Show. There's an asterisk on that one because that is not including like theatrical midnight runs and stuff like that. This is just like main box office for when it was originally released. Yeah. Number 2, a film that we are going to do here. It's one of Manster's favorites. I've never seen it. We've talked about it before. We're definitely going to do it because I bought the DVD years ago just to do it on here. $59.2 million. It won the Best Picture that year. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yep.
And the number one movie
right behind me.
You got it right behind you?
I got it. Well, yeah, it's on my shelf right over there.
Hell yeah.
Nice big version that got books in it and everything.
Ooh, baby. And then the number one film that year is the number one
75?
Film. 75, yeah. $133.4 million. It will be the subject of our, at some point, last episode ever here on The Pint. Jaws. Little film about a big shark. All right, that is the box office.
Did you say the budget for this?
I did not. What's the budget on this?
I found the $3.8 million budget, so that's a hit.
Yeah, definitely.
3.8 to 56.
Well, 22, right? 22.5
Oh,
million?
22? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Either way, yeah.
Still did well. All right, let's rate this fucking thing.
Listen up, this'll only take a second.
0 to 5, 0 being the worst thing ever, 5 being the best thing ever, quarter and half scale optional. I'll go first. Never saw this movie before. I know its reputation. I know, it's of that classic 70s filmmaking period, where there's so many movies that are considered classic films and important films. And, obviously this is hitting 50 years. And look, there's no way I can't mention it, that this movie is way ahead of its time for it's like the LGBTQ stuff, the trans stuff. Throwing that in a movie in 1975 could have been, suicide for a lot of these guys. Like, Al Pacino coming off The Godfather and playing a gay guy. We talked about that in Cruising. Cruising was 7 or 8 years after The Godfather. This movie, now look, Cruising is clearly a much more sensationalized film about homosexual men, right? Leather men and stuff like that. So I get where that scared Pacino a bit, but this is 2 years after Godfather 2, 1 year after Godfather 2, you got all these people that look at you like you're Michael Corleone and you're playing this kind of incompetent criminal who, he's also gay, right? So I think that's really brave. The storytelling's really brave. I've got to be honest. I did not love this as much as I thought I would. I thought it was a little overlong at points. I thought that I felt like there were points where we were just spinning our wheels, where it just felt like we were doing anything to kind of keep us from going out into the world and getting on that plane. They were keeping everything in the bank. It's a hostage bank movie. I get it. But there were points where I was I wanted to know more about Sal. And we don't really find anything out about Sal. He just seems to be like a loose cannon kind of, and he's just kind of in the background. Pacino's excellent. Charles Durning is awesome in this. Chris Sarandon is great in this. Chris Sarandon he has a femininity about him in this movie that it's an undertone, but you feel like I'm watching a woman perform. His nails and the way he stands, he's standing there while he's talking with his hand on his chest.
Yeah.
I felt like I was watching my mother at points, in little weird ways, little
yeah,
nuances.
you definitely felt sympathy for his plight.
Yes.
He did such a good job.
Yes. I went on Letterboxd and a ton of my friends that have watched this movie gave it a 5. I'm not there. I'm going to give this a 3.5. I really liked it a lot. And that's not me saying, this isn't, I just don't know if you were to talk about classic 70s cinema, I don't know if I would put this on my upper tier of classic 70s cinema. A movie that is much less talked about that I thought was better was Marathon Man. Apples and oranges. I've just always heard so much about Dog Day Afternoon that I thought I was walking into a Godfather situation. And
Okay.
it wasn't that for me, but it was a very good movie. It was worth watching. And I'm glad we did this one. So I'm going with a 3.5. I know you're going to be higher, Manster, so let's find out how much higher.
So a 3.5. All right. I'm not going to go up to a 4. I'm not going to go up to a 5. I think maybe that's why you went first, to sort of keep me from giving it a 5.
No, but if you feel it's a 5, give it a 5.
Yeah.
But I do know that you jump the gun sometimes. Jurassic Park.
No, but I do feel this is kind of like an upper echelon 70s movie, but I've also seen it before and I do have a little nostalgia for it. I think I love it because it's complex. Like the characters are complex. Nobody in here is a cookie cutter at all.
No.
And it's well written and directed, you know, and Lumet has his style and he keeps to his style. You know, you've got the building sense of chaos, right? It's an escalation of this chaos, and you know, and you want to know what happened. You stick with this to the very end. I totally agree. It's too long. It feels like there's just too many little scenes, and some of them should have been left out. Maybe it could be 20 minutes shorter.
It's 2 hours and 10 minutes long. And I think maybe an hour 45 to an hour 50 would have supplanted or would have been fine.
And I love how Sonny, you know, despite being a bank robber, he's very engaging and charismatic and always feels like he's in control. And I appreciate that, you know, in this movie. And his relationships and his motivations for what he's doing, they're very complicated.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
He's got a wife that I guess he doesn't. He loves her, but he doesn't respect her. I'm not really sure. But then he, you know, if I think, who was it? His mother even said at one point, if your wife was better, you wouldn't have, you know, gone to the arms of this other man.
Oh, the mother hates the wife.
Yeah, she's freaking crazy. Yeah,
the mother. Yeah, I felt heavy. Like, you know, I mean, I didn't really have that experience in my life when I was married, but like, it was very much like, you know, this girl was not good enough for you, you know, like, and
yep.
I felt the
100%.
realism because he has, when she says it to him, he just looks tired, like, fuck this again.
Yeah. He's always got his head in his hands. Yep. So, you know, and it's got that moral ambiguity and perceptions of right and wrong and all that stuff. And it does have, you know, although it's not subtle, but it's not like totally in your face, you know, the whole commentary about the gay aspect of it, the trans aspect of it, and it puts it out there, and it puts it out there in a way that makes it like respectful and believable. I think it does a pretty good service of doing that. I'll see if you remember another movie that we did that did this, but it's got like a powerful commentary. This movie does on the sensationalism of the media and the public's fascination with crime. Do you remember another movie we did that had the same thing?
I mean, I definitely call it out in this that there's
the movie Serial Mom.
Oh yeah, shit.
Did that in a different way, a comedic, more fantastical way.
Yeah,
but it kind of had that same sort of thing going on, which I thought was great. And like you said, I mean, Al Pacino's performance is great. He's got such range in this. You know, desperate criminal. He's a negotiator. He's a heartbroken lover. He's defeated at the end. And John Cazale he has so little to do, but he's very powerful in the way he does that.
He is. I wish there was more for him, but like he is still good.
Charles Durning, man, oh man, I think some of their stuff was ad lib too. Like they're back and forth, like from when he's in the door of the bank in the street, and they're shouting back and forth at each other. A lot of that I think was just ad lib and just went wherever it went.
Him and Pacino were really good friends, and Charles Durning auditioned for the role of the bank manager, and Pacino talked Sidney Lumet into switching him to Moretti because he felt like he was right for that role and that they would have a good rapport back and forth. And they do. Charles Durning is, I think, the best part of this movie.
Yeah, it's great. And then one other thing I will mention is the fact that it's based on a true story. Clearly not all of it's, 100% accurate. But the fact that it's based on real events, just kind of adds this layer of intrigue. Like,
Yeah.
wow, this stuff really happened. You know, like you can't make up this kind of thing.
No.
So yeah, for all that, I think this is better than a typical crime drama. It's got a lot of stuff you can really bite into. So I'm going to give it a 4.5.
All right. 3.5, 4.5. That's a pretty good average.
Yeah.
Pretty good average. All right. Well, this was our Pride Month special for June of 2025. Don't forget all that stuff I told you before, the phone numbers and everything. If you feel like you need to talk to somebody or you know someone who needs to talk to somebody, check that out. HRChumanrights.org. Check them out. And if you're not a Pint Insider, sign up the Pint Patreon / the Pint. $2.50 a month will get you 2 extra episodes a month. And this month for Pride, we're doing one, as we always do on that page as well. We're doing the Crime Game. And if you like that and you want to go back to the last 2 years, you could hear us talk about Bound, the very hot Jennifer Tilly, Gina Gershon licking each other's boops. And what did we do last year? We did something last year as well on the Insider, and I can't
what
remember.
did we do?
What did we do? I don't remember. It was
Brokeback Mountain.
And someone out there shouting it out right now.
How are we this dumb?
Yeah, we suck. We
All
suck.
right, I'm going to find out. You're going to have to pause this, and
All right.
it'll look like we actually remembered. Hold on.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to pause it. All right, we're back. It's Call Me By Your Name. How could we forget a dude eating a cum peach?
Yeah, cum peach.
It's easily, I have this, you know what's funny?
We have our best art ever from that.
As we're trying to figure it out, I have in front of me on my laptop riser the little sticker of me and you, where we did that episode and we took the picture mocking the poster. Call Me By Your Name. Okay. So yeah, you can go back and listen to Bound. You can listen to Call Me By Your Name. You can go back and listen to Brokeback Mountain, Cruising, and then you can listen to the two we did this month as well. So until next time, Manster, tell everybody where they can find us and then get us out of here.
All of your podcatchers, you can find us then on YouTube, The Pint, a Pop Culture Podcast. On Instagram, it's at The Pint Pop. And like John already said, the Patreon, you can be an insider. Patreon.com/The Pint.
See ya.
See ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!